At approximately noon, a high-pitched frequency emanated from the intercom on the wall. At the exact moment the sound stopped, all of the students' heads snapped up, their eyes glazed over, and they simultaneously looked directly at me. I could feel a vibration in the air, and the hair stood up on my arms. For a few minutes I waited, and stared back at the blank faces of my 20 once friendly pupils, who just moments before were chatting excitedly. Their empty expressions quickly creeped me out, and I forced myself to look away. I'm recording this so I can provide good documentation if anything else happens, and I may need to have a record for the paramedics when they show up. My gut tells me not to move, so I sit stone still, nothing moving but my well-hidden hands, waiting for them to snap out of it. My only guess as to what happened is the sound triggered a mass seizure that only adolescents are susceptible to. You know, like those tones to test how old your ears are. Maybe adults can hear the frequency, but it doesn't alter our behavior because our brains are fully developed. Whatever it is, I need to record the details. 5 minutes after the event. There have been no changes in behavior so far. As I sit here writing this, my classroom of 20 high school students stare back. I'm trying not to glance their way because every time I do, my heart races and I start to hyperventilate. It's been over 5 minutes since the sounds ended and any of them blinked or moved. How is that even possible? I don't know what is wrong with them, but I'm too afraid to move from my chair to check. The looks on their faces are too alien. The sounds of their breathing too unfamiliar and ragged. I've never noticed how unnerving complete stillness could be until a few minutes ago. Our bodies are not meant to sit totally still. We fidget and twitch hundreds of times an hour. To see this is truly bizarre and unnerving. Now, I'm sure you're thinking, oh, what a wimp, they're just kids, and normally I'd agree with you and call me a wimp too, but something's not right here. My instincts tell me that these are not my students anymore, and that I can't rely on the relationship we have built over the last 8 months to save me. The word savage keeps popping into my head, and I don't know why. It's like some warning beacon is going off every time I consider getting up. 10 minutes after event. Still no changes. They're just sitting there, unblinking, gazing in my direction. I think I'm going to cry. I'm so scared that something is really wrong with them. I want so much to get up and check, but my legs are paralyzed with fear. Since this all began, not a single person has walked down the always busy hallway. It's as if the school has been shut down. I can't hear any noise coming from the other rooms, and I'm too far away to see out the door. Could this be happening in other rooms as well? I have to make a plan to get help. I'm going to sit tight for a few more minutes and figure something out. 15 minutes after event. Okay, game plan. I think I might chance grabbing my cell phone out of my drawer and texting my friend Jessica across the hall. I just have to be careful not to draw their attention. I'm slowly going to open my drawer and grab it out. 20 minutes after event. Fuck, well, that didn't work. I was shaking so badly that I dropped the phone on the floor, making a huge noise. They respond to noise by mimicking the sound. Holy shit, all 20 students just simultaneously and perfectly recreated the sound of my phone hitting the floor. I've never before witnessed anything so terrifying in my life. I can't stop shaking, and I can't chance hearing that sound again. Ever. 30 minutes after event. I finally composed myself enough to begin recording again. Oh, but man, my nerves are wrecked. I can't get that sound out of my head. Human voices do not make that noise. Do our vocal cords even possess the ability to mimic in that matter? There's no way. My phone is still on the floor. I really need to get it back and attempt to contact Jessica, but I'm so afraid. Okay, I've got to do it. It's now or never. I'm going to reach down slowly and pick it up. Maybe if I keep my eyes locked on them, they will not notice. Shit, now I know what they will do if you move. They move too. All of my students are now standing and staring at me with smiles on their faces. I thought the blank looks were disturbing. Is it unnerving on a whole other level? Those wicked smiles. I've never seen any of these kids smile like this before. It's like looking into the face of 24 evil mimes. Dear Jesus, it's horrible. I don't know how much more of this I can take. Where are the authorities? Where are the principals? Why isn't anyone coming to check on us yet? Am I losing my mind? The classes are supposed to transition in another 10 minutes, and then I will know for sure if it's just my students who have been affected. The transition bell just rang, and it's like nothing ever happened. With the sound of the bell, all 20 students snapped out of their daze. They gathered their belongings, smiled normally at me, and walked out of the room. I'm still sitting here in complete shock. I can hear the other classrooms emptying into the hallways as well, but that doesn't answer any of my questions. Did the other students just break out of the trance too? Or was this just my room? I'm going to go check on the other teachers and students to see if this anomaly occurred anywhere else. I'm not sure if that would make me feel better or worse. On one hand, it would confirm my sanity. On the other hand, it would suggest a much larger issue. I'll keep you posted when I have more details. Update. It was not just my room. I can't wrap my head around this right now, but I will try to gather all the information tomorrow. Unless I stay home, which is looking likely. 16th of June, 2016. Sorry for the lapse in time between post and update. I've been too upset to continue until now. When I emerged into the hallway, it was apparent immediately that I had not been singular in my experience. The students were laughing and talking as if nothing had happened. But the faculty was slowly appearing into the hallway with dazed and fearful expressions on their faces. Some of them looked worse off than I felt. The principal made an announcement for all students to report to the gymnasium for the remainder of the day, and we all gathered together and began to exchange our stories. The similarities became evident quite early on, and we all eventually settled into silence, enjoying the safety of each other's company. Here are some of the most unsettling tales. Jessica. Class had just started and we were listening to an audio recording of Julius Caesar. I was immersed in my book, so I didn't even notice the change right away. Oh God, I wish I had. A few minutes into the reading, I glanced up and all of the students were standing a few feet away from my desk, smiling with their eyes wide open. I figured it was a joke they had staged, so I reached down and paused the audio and started laughing. They all concurrently took a step toward me. As scary as that was, it was nothing compared to the sound of my exact laughter being replicated by the entire class like a chorus of doppelgangers. I was so startled that I jumped up out of my chair and threw myself backwards into the wall. They took another step toward me, and their smiles widened. This was when I figured out they mimicked movement with movement. I slowly tried to right my position with as little movement as possible in order to get more comfortable. They took 2 more steps towards my desk before I had managed to complete my task. By this time, I was silently crying and praying for help, and my students were only a foot away from my desk, clustered together, leaning towards me, with an excited grin threatening to split the skin on their lips. I don't know how I managed to hold still until class was over, but somehow I did.
Phil. I was walking around the room reciting a poem when it began. I heard the sound but didn't really pay it much attention because there are always weird noises coming from my intercom. I kept walking around reading for another 30 seconds before I realized something was wrong. When I turned to face the class, they were all standing in a conga line, smiling at me. I smiled back at them, thinking they were pranking me. Boy, was I wrong. In response to my smile, they immediately stopped smiling, lowered their heads, and took one perfectly synchronized step toward me. I turned around and ran like hell toward my door. They pursued me, and right as my hand hit the doorknob, I felt hot breath on my neck. Not brave enough to turn around, I crumbled to the ground with my arms cradling the bell. Not brave enough to turn around, I crumbled to the ground with my arms cradling my head, where I remained, motionless, until the bell rang. The stories were all very much alike, each one a small glimmer of the terror we had all just succumbed to. During our conversation, some held it together like prize fighters, while others sobbed uncontrollably into their palms. It was obvious we were all altered versions of our once stronger selves. It was eerie how quickly we all began feeling and acting normally again. Within just a half hour or so, we were all beginning to relax and even laugh at ourselves a little. It was then that we noticed Pat was missing. Afraid of what could have happened to her and what we might find when she was located, a small group decided to go and check her classroom. Classroom 2-A. Pat's room was pitch black when we approached. None of the rooms in our wing of the building have windows because they were once larger rooms broken up into multiple classes. To accommodate our growing programs and the need for extra space, this makes into eerily dark rooms when the lights are turned off. I peered into the small, rectangular door, hoping to catch a glimpse of her inside. It was impossible to see anything in the room, so we were forced to go inside. Somehow, I had been appointed the leader of our small search and rescue party, so I went in first. Blindly feeling the wall for the light switch, my fingers fumbled for a few seconds before finding my target. The large room was illuminated with the harsh, fluorescent glow of the rows of ceiling lights, casting strange shadows on the empty desks. There were no students, and no Pat. Her teacher desk sat abandoned in the far right corner of her room, away from any possible exit. If she had gotten out, we would have seen her in the hallway, but we didn't. Where could she have gone? The three of us went deeper into her room, looking for clues to her whereabouts. Several of the desks had been overturned, and a few of the books had been knocked off of her desk. Realizing this could be an indicator of a struggle, I walked closer, fearing what I might find. A small, weak sound could be heard from under her desk. Trembling, I made my way around to the rear and slowly pulled her chair back to reveal the space below. Huddled in a small ball, we found Pat. She was covered in scratches on her face and neck, blood oozing from the multitude of wounds. Her hands were covering her head in a defensive gesture, and patches of hair were littered around her small frame. She'd been attacked. Trying not to startle her, I slowly kneeled down and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Pat screamed and began thrashing about wildly. She reminded me of a caged raccoon, rabid with its desire to escape its captors. I made my voice as low and as soothing as possible and cooed relaxing words to her. Slowly, she began to settle down. We were able to remove her from the small space and set her down in her chair, but she was unable to speak coherently to explain to us what had happened. The best I can do to tell you Pat's tale is to transcribe her broken, mumbling, and somewhat manic words from the small time we spent alone with her in that room. Sound strange. All intercom. Students. Different. Wild. Smiling. Evil. Scary. Smiling. 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 Silent. No voices. Mimicking. Awful. I tried to help. I walked towards them. They charged me. I ran. There's nowhere to go. I must hide. I must hide. I must hide. Screaming. Was I screaming? No, 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 they are screaming. No, we're all screaming. So much screaming. 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 Chasing me. I can feel them on my back. Hands grab hair. Painful. Why? Must hide. Must hide. Must hide. Help. More hands. Desks. Get under the desk. Must hide. Screaming. Then me. Us. They are me. I am them. Desk. I can see it. More hands. More hands under the desk. Safe. No. Hands everywhere. My face hurts. My hair hurts. I'm scared.
And that was all she said before she passed out. The paramedics have come and taken her away. I don't know what to say regarding Pat's story other than I'm glad I didn't move. We are all afraid of what the next days will bring. I went to school today. I couldn't put that responsibility on a stranger, and could you imagine the craziness of those sub-plans? If the class becomes zombies, sit completely still and silent until the next bell. Yeah, okay, that doesn't make me sound like a total nutter or anything. The school is oddly deserted today. I would say only half my students are here in every class. They all seem to be behaving normally so far, but it is only first period. All of the teachers, except Pat, who are hers in psych for a 3-day evaluation, have shown up for work today. You know how I know we're all here? I haven't moved from my doorway the entire morning. I'm writing this on the notes on my phone. If that happens again, I'm getting the hell out of here as quickly as possible. Now that I know what can happen if they get to you, there is no way I'm taking that chance. Judging from the other shadows I see up and down the hallway, I'm not alone in this way of thinking. The intercoms have been disabled to try and avoid another problem, as the administration labeled it. They've done a dynamite job of covering the whole thing up. You won't see this in the news, you won't read this in the paper. We have an excellent PR department. Forget about any other schools getting a warning. We must preserve our reputation at any costs. We've all been given explicit instructions in crisis management to make us more comfortable if a problem should arise, but they're confident it won't. You should be safe, they say. I'm sure it was a one-time occurrence. We will do whatever we can to make sure this doesn't happen again. Precautions have been taken to disable any and all mass communication from inside the building. Who knows, maybe they're right. I'm going to try and do my best to teach my students despite the circumstances. Now, I would love to keep writing, but I have to go now. My student's cell phone all just rang. Now, we wait. 30th of July, 2016. I've been unable to post for a few weeks because I have not felt well. In fact, all of the school seems to have come down with some kind of virus. Attendance is at an all-time low with both faculty and students. We have the symptoms of a nasty flu bug: watery eyes, fever, congestion, nausea, pain, and a sense of our limbs being weighed down by a tremendous force. Some days I struggle to will my body to move. It's like my brain and vessel are disconnected. I've used up all of my sick time, so no matter what, I will be at school for the remainder of the year, which is only 6 days. I'm unsure where to even start because it has been so long since my last update, and my brain doesn't really want to cooperate with me today, or most days anymore. I guess the best place would be back when the cell phones rang. 16th of July, 2016. Every student in my classroom answered their phones and then just sat there, listening. Their eyes glazed over as they sat erect in their seats, nodding in unison at various intervals of the conversation. This felt much different than before. There was no malice in their faces, no eagerness in their stares, and no interest in my actions. They appeared to be having a mindful, albeit one-way, chat with someone on the other side of the line. The beacon of warning inside my head was still going off, but without as much urgency as before. Instead of feeling the need to stay still, I felt the need to intercept the call and stop whatever force was on the other side. Carefully, I walked up to the nearest student and gently eased the cell out of her hand. She did not put up a fight. I doubt she could have in her catatonic state, and only after I had brought the phone to my own ear did she respond by looking at me. All she did was nod and then reposition her hand next to her ear, as if she had possession of her phone and not me. Funny thing, she still nodded in perfect synchronicity with the rest of my pupils. Warily, I raised my arm to put the speaker to my ear. I paused midway, hesitant to witness whatever was causing them to behave in this manner. What if I were not immune to this like I was the intercom? What would become of me if I too began to be influenced by the sinister presence that had been plaguing my students for the past few days? Knowing there was no way to find out without listening, I held the phone to my temple. There was nothing there but static. Confused, I laid the phone back down on the student's desk, where she greedily grabbed it and put it back to her small ear. Mere moments passed before all of the students put their phones back down. The buzz of conversation in the classroom revved back up, and no one seemed to be affected by the call. Their lack of bizarre behavior was somehow more unsettling than their previous actions. I spent the last hours of my day standing in my doorway, waiting for something to happen. Nothing ever did. The day ended much like every other day of my career, with teenagers happily grabbing their backpacks while goofing off with their friends in the hallway, and then heading out to the buses to go home. Apparently, the other faculty is just as fed up as I am, because they all listened in on the call as well. It was the same for them as it was me, nothing but static. I don't know what to make of their behavior. How can they nod and interact with static? It's all so bizarre. The administration sent out an all call over the first weekend, banning any electronic devices at school. They're really trying to eliminate any source of disturbance that could cause the students to be altered. To ensure everyone is following the rules, the faculty has to meet students at the front of the building and escort them to our classrooms. First, they are searched by our student resource officers and held in the gym, and then we pick them up from the gym and take them directly to our classes. It feels a lot like prison here, but it eases everyone's mind. It was around day 3 after cell phone event that everyone started to fall ill. First, it was just a few students here and there. Nothing like that first day back at the beginning where half of the kids were out. However, it quickly escalated into a full-blown pandemic. Over 75% of the student body has been out since last Monday, and my school is staffed by more substitutes than full-time teachers. Men in white hazmat suits wander around the building like worker bees, decontaminating to contain the virus, but it doesn't seem to be doing much help. None of the students who have stayed home sick have come back yet, and more are failing to show each day. Honestly, I don't know how I'm going to make it much longer. It might be worth taking the doc in pay just to be able to stay in bed and rest. Surprisingly, my family has all remained healthy despite my raging fever. I wouldn't wish this on them, but it is odd for a virus to only affect one member of a household, especially one with this high of a transfer rate. At least it appears things are calm. There have not been any more frequencies, transmissions, static-laced phone calls, or whatever they all were. Not that it would really matter at this point. Who are they going to contact? I'm currently only teaching to about 10 kids a day, and they all look pretty weak. I just hope we all get over this horrible illness soon. I feel like a zombie.